All right, so today's lesson is very, very short. I apologize for the hour and 20-minute video on the previous one, but I promise this one will probably be about 15 minutes to make up for it. We're going to talk about frames of reference. What are frames of reference? And I'll show you an example of what frames of reference really means in class so that you kind of get it, okay? I'll always do that for things where you can kind of not see it. All right, so it says explain frame of reference in terms a 7th grader could understand. It is as follows. It is the point of view of an observer. Okay? Okay, and the frame of reference, which we'll call FOR, frame of reference, determines what motion or motions are observed. All right, and I want you to think about this. I want you to think about what it looks like from different points of view. In other words, if you're driving in a car and you drop a ball as you go by into a bucket, what does it look like to you? What does it look like to the person standing outside watching you drive by? What does it look like if you're standing on a railroad car and the train is going by and you're standing on the car or in the car and you toss a ball up from your hand? What does it look like to you? Where does it land? What does it look like to a person outside looking in? When you're in a car driving down the road and another car goes by you, what does their speed look like to you? What does their speed of both of you look like to a person standing on the side of the road? What does your speed look like to the other person who just passed you? All of those are points of view. Those are frames of reference, okay? It says, using frame of reference principles, explain why a head-on collision between cars going opposite directions cause many more injuries than rear-end collisions between cars going the same direction. Well, what you need to understand is that if you have a rear-end collision, all right, that means we've got one car this way, boom, and we've got another car this way, going in the same direction. Car A hits car B. What does it really mean? Well, let's say car A is going 70 miles per hour and car B is going 60 miles per hour. Well, by frames of reference, the reality is that car A is really only going a little bit faster than car B. This is where frames of reference come into play. If they're both going in the same direction, car B really only sees car A going how much faster? Well, we can tell. We can take car A's speed, subtract car B's speed from it, and what we really get is only a difference of 10 miles per hour. So when they hit each other, the reality is car A is really only hitting car B at 10 miles per hour. As though, this is the frame of reference, it is though A is going 10 miles per hour and B is sitting still. Now that's very different, so that wouldn't be too bad of a collision. That's very different than the head-on collision. Head-on collision, you've now got car A going 70 miles per hour this way, and you've got car B going 60 miles per hour this way. Well, what is the speed, the effective speed of the difference in speed between the two? Well, if I'm going 70 towards you and you're going 60 towards me, then the difference between those two speeds because this is an opposite direction. This is minus. So if we were to take 70 and subtract that negative 60, what we really get is 130 mile per hour difference. Oh my gosh. So the reality is that car A is effectively hitting going 130 miles per hour while car B is going 0 miles per hour. That's going to be a much rougher collision and much more damaging. So when we look at frames of reference like this, we look at the difference between the speeds. And you do have to use the signs associated with direction and you have to take that into account. Okay, so now let's look at a test your understanding. Sound waves travel with constant velocity through the air. The speed of sound depends on the temperature of the air, and if the air itself is moving, the speed of airflow is added to the speed of sound, or subtracted from, depending on the direction the sound travels relative to the air. Oh, frame of reference. You're either adding or subtracting it depending on which direction, right? Suppose that it's very cold weather, so the speed of sound in still air is 300 meters per second. You stand in front of a tall vertical cliff that is 3,600 meters away. At time t equals 0, you shout at the cliff, and at time t equals big T, you hear your echo. Suppose the air is still. Calculate the time t and the average speed of the sound wave. Verbally explain your steps. All right, so if the air is still, that means we don't have anything that's changing what we know. So we know d equals v times t, right? Velocity times time, which means that time is going to be equal to distance divided by velocity. So in still air, we do have to consider going to the right, and we have to consider going left. So let's find the time. There is no change in the time. It is 3,600 meters. Velocity is 300 meters per second, which means it is a time of 12 seconds. Well, going to the left, there's no change because it's still, the air is still, so the frame of reference didn't change. Does that make sense? You still have your distance, which is 3,600, your velocity, which is 300, so it's another 12 seconds. So the total time is equal to 12 plus 12, which is 24 seconds. What is my average speed? Well, average speed, you know, is going to be equal to the total distance, which would be what? 7,200 divided by the total time, which is 24, which go figure is 300 meters per second because nothing changed. Now, suppose we have air moving towards the cliff with a speed of 60 meters per second. Okay? Calculate the time t and the average speed of the sound wave. Verbally explain your steps. All right. So now we've got the air moving towards the cliff. So on the way to the right, it's moving in the same direction, right? So say we got a cliff here, you're standing here, you're shouting, la, going this way. You've got air also moving this way. So this is 300, this is 60. So now we've got, going to the right, we've got our time is going to be that same 3,600 meters, but now it's 300 plus that 60 that the wind is pushing it. We end up with 3,600 divided by 360, which only takes 10 seconds. However, going left, I want you to think about this. You've been on a plane before, probably. Now, we've got the sound bouncing back this way, going 300, but the wind is moving this way, 60. So now if I look at this chunk of it, we've got 300 minus 60, which means it's really only traveling 240 meters per second on the way back, isn't it? This is relative. This is like when a pilot flies with a tailwind, that would be our going to the right because the wind is pushing it faster, versus a headwind, which is going into the wind, which is slowing the plane down. That's our case in going left here. So our time is going to be equal to the 3,600 meters still, same distance still, but this time my sound is only going 240 meters per second. So what we end up with here is it's now 15 seconds. So my total time, big T, is 10 plus 15. It's now 25 seconds. So my average speed is slower because now we've got 7,200, but instead of divided by 24, we're dividing by 25. Is it going to be that much slower? Not really, but it will be a little bit slower. Be approximately, if you do the math, about 288 meters per second. So it is slower than the 300. Did that make sense? It says the average speed when there is wind should be less than the average speed when there is no wind. Explain why this is the case qualitatively, using words and talking about quantities being greater or lesser, but without actually performing any calculations. So I want you to think about what I said. Pause the video here for a minute and actually try to do this yourself. Okay, I'm assuming you did. So what we need to say is we know that in B, the sound spent more time going what? It spent more time going 240 meters per second than it did going 360. So its average speed should be closer to 240 meters per second than 360 meters per second. And I want you to think about it. What's halfway between 240 and 360? That 300. So if you've got 240 here, you've got 300 in the middle, and you've got 360 meters per second here. If it is close, this is my average typically if there's no still wind. If it has to be closer to 240, that means it has to be in here somewhere, which means it has to be less than 300 meters per second. Okay? So my average is in here somewhere. Those are the type of words you're using. What we just did was a quantitative qualitative. This was my quant, and this was my qual. And you saw this last time too. You've got to be able to do the calculations, but in Physics 1, you also have to be able to explain why those calculations are right. All right, that is the end of your notes. Told you they'd be slow. 14 minutes, all right? Okay, see you in class.